For me, I read The 4-Hour Workweek and then literally dropped out of school a couple weeks after that. I actually like failure because I know the more I'm failing, the closer I'm getting to succeeding.
But what makes someone great at it? Very few are excellent at being an entrepreneur.
Either I'm going to succeed in entrepreneurship or I'm going to be homeless in San Diego, California.
Welcome to the next episode of the Entrepreneurial Excellence Podcast. I have an awesome guest with me today. It is Tyler Wagner, from college dropout to Wall Street Journal #1 best-selling author and founder of Authors Unite and Partner Profits. Tyler built his career around one core idea: helping others turn knowledge into influence. Deeply thinking about how you build books to do that. So I want to dig in on that front. Tyler's helped over 4,000 authors publish and sell millions of books, transforming Authors Unite into one of the most trusted book publishing and marketing ecosystems for entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and executives. Beyond publishing, Tyler's work with Partner Profits blends storytelling with systems thinking, teaching entrepreneurs how to use books not just as products, but as platforms for partnership, credibility, and scale, which is definitely something I want to learn more about too. And today we'll explore how you built a multi-million-dollar business by betting on authors before it was cool, the psychology behind influence, conferencing, going to conferences in person, not in person, best entrepreneurs who've written books about what it means to be a fantastic entrepreneur, and what it really takes to create leverage through publishing, community, and relationships. Tyler, welcome to Entrepreneurial Excellence.
Dude, thank you for having me. That was one of the best intros ever out of all the shows. So,
well, good. Well, I'm going to make it harder than going from there. This podcast is called Entrepreneurial Excellence. You are an entrepreneur. You work with essentially every author probably is an entrepreneur, and I want to talk about that anyways. But how do you define entrepreneurial excellence? What does that actually mean to you?
It is, I'll actually go back to when I started the company, because now when I think back to it, it seems kind of funny, but at the time, it felt super risky, like dropping out of college and all that. Like for me, I read The 4-Hour Workweek and then literally dropped out of school a couple weeks after that.
That was what, 2011-ish when you dropped out?
Yeah, it was like 2011, 2012-ish, because I graduated high school 2010. So it was around there. At the time, I was terrified, right? But it was for kind of all those like egotistical reasons of like, if this doesn't pan out, then I got to go back to college and I'll be the old guy in the classroom, just kind of like silly things that in reality, to me, I guess now to me, that wouldn't be that big a deal. But to me, to answer your question, it's like, being like willing to go forward in like this unknown abyss and not knowing if it's going to succeed. And I think that's what entrepreneurs do on a consistent basis. Even now with the company being successful, we're doing tons of different moves and towards a growth that are the complete unknown, and you don't know how it's going to pan out, and you spend money for these things. So to me, I just guess the answer is what's different between somebody. I'm not saying anything negative about the opposite, but like a 9-to-5 person and an entrepreneur, I think you need both in the world. But for an entrepreneur, it's like this constant every day of risk and just moving forward and not really knowing, like you're never going forward with everything perfectly aligned. Like, as I'm sure you're aware, there's always pivots. Even though you have the business plan never goes as planned.
So I agree with that. But what makes someone great at it, right? So lots and lots of people decide to be entrepreneurs. Yes. Very few are excellent at being an entrepreneur. What is excellent in your mind?
I think, well, two components. I would say with all the failures, just never quitting. And that seems kind of, I guess a lot of people could say that, but to me, I think it's gotten to a point, and it did earlier on, where I actually like failure. So that could be a component in it, because I know the more I'm failing, the closer I'm getting to succeeding. And I think that's not the average person. They steer away from failure, and entrepreneurs, the excellent ones, they're heading directly towards it as quickly as possible to get to the success. And then for me, I think it's also just staying in your genius zone. Like in the earlier days, I was trying to do everything. And when you're strapped for capital, I think that's kind of what you have to do. But as you progress and you can hire people, just give up the things that you don't like doing and that aren't for you, and double down on your strengths. And for me, I have a podcast myself. I've done about 2,500 interviews. And it's like a huge number, but I love it. So once I realized I am like just people person to the max, I doubled down on that kind of God-given excellence in a sense, and just kept getting better and better. And I stopped trying to do the things like building a website or something. Like I'm not a tech guy at all. So hopefully that I'm trying to give you the best answer, but I think it's like two things: heading towards failure, being okay with failure, and then also realizing what you're excellent at naturally and doubling down on those things.
So I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, like one of the key core theses of my company and what I do is it's all about handing off and delegating the stuff you're not good at. And my company, we actually do back office work for other startups. So we're running your back office, like operations, HR, finance, compliance, equity. And it's like, why? That's not why you started your company. So why are you spending any time trying to figure that out? Delegate it so you can go back to doing what you do great, what you love. And also, as you mentioned, like getting towards a failure mode, like the faster you can get towards failure and either see if it's failure or not, the better you will do. The other point that I think you made that's a really good one is the idea of not quitting. And too many people, my experience has been too many people quit too early. And like, why do you agree with that? And then why do you think people do?
Well, I remember in like I guess K through 12 school, I don't know how many times exactly it was, obviously, but I just remember hearing over and over again that this like statistic where it was like 9 out of 10 businesses fail. It almost seemed like the school system, and actually now I kind of know because I watched this thing about Seth Godin about how the school system's not everything you think it is, which we can go down that rabbit hole maybe if you want to, but basically it seems the school system was set up to, make employees, factory workers and stuff, not entrepreneurs essentially. And I just having that stat in your mind always, I like it was embedded in my subconscious. I think that's why people quit early and most don't even start just because they're terrified. They're like, oh, if 9 out of 10 of these things fail, who am I? Like, I'm not going to be in the 10%. Like, that's crazy. So I just think it's all that stuff that's been pumped up into our minds in the normal school system and in college as well. And then always, and I think too, it's just like when you fail big for those first few times, it is really scary. And a lot of times in the earlier days of an entrepreneur's life, your back is against the wall. It's like you have those months where if you don't get a couple clients, it's done, and somehow we break through that. But some people don't, most people don't. Right. And I think fear is kind of because of that though, because if that fear mindset stops you from thinking outside the box. Whereas if this is for you and you're not going to stop until it succeeds, you'll always kind of find a way.
Why did you not have that fear mindset, right? So a lot of people would not have the guts to ever go start a company, let alone quit college and go do it. What in your background or how you were raised or what was it that said to you, yeah, I'm going to go do this super risky thing and drop out of college and go start a company?
That's an awesome question. So my dad was an accountant. He's retired now, but he was an accountant for Johnson & Johnson. He did it for 35 years. So he obviously was able to do it. But let's just say when I was a kid, I remember seeing multiple days where he was not having the funnest time of his life. Let's put it that way. Going to work.
Entrepreneurs have terrible days a lot of the time.
No, 100% agree. And God bless him. I mean, what he did for our family, without him and my mom, there's no way I would have been set up because that's kind of another component of it. Have you ever seen the movie Billy Madison Okay, great movie. Not at that level, but my parents, they do well. But again, not Billy Madison level, but they do well. And so for me, it got to the point where I just knew I was not for corporate America, like wearing a suit and tie already. Like I just hate it. So I was like, if I got to wear that every day, it's already not going to work. But so it got to the point where I was like, either I'm going to succeed in entrepreneurship or I'm like going to be homeless in San Diego, California. Like I was literally okay with that other option because it was that bad. I did not want to work in an office. And I knew that other option wasn't my reality too, right? Going back to the Billy Madison thing, my worst case scenario, and I think this was from the 4-Hour Work Week. There was like this part of the book, I can't remember exactly, where he talked about a lot of times fear is pretty irrational. Like we think things are going to be way worse than they are if something doesn't work out. And for me, I came to the realization after reading that if I failed completely at entrepreneurship, I would end up back in a mansion in Pennsylvania with a pool in the backyard with my parents and my mom still cooking me dinner every night. So I was like, that actually isn't that bad. Like that's not really losing. You know what I mean? It's not what I'm after, but that's not the worst case scenario ever. So that made it a lot.
And I think for a lot of people, that is true. Like, I mean, people might say, okay, what you just described is very privileged. But the truth is, most people, not everyone by a long shot, and there's lots of things we need to do to fix sort of America and frankly, the world in many cases. But you have some fallback of some sort, right? It's your parent. You can go back to your parents' house. Maybe their parents' house is in a mansion with a pool and backyard, but like you can go back to your parents' house and go start fresh again. And at least you tried. And that's where a lot of people don't even try. And it's like, okay, are then you proud of the fact that in 30 years, your 401k has gone up, but you never gave it a shot? Like, I don't know. That sounds like a unfortunate outcome for people in
Yeah.
my mind, but I'm biased. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, same here, man. For me, it was more, money is important. You need it. But it was just the happiness. I just couldn't, I knew it deep down that I would be miserable if I was working in that corporate environment. And for some reason, I didn't realize that that's what college would directly get me before I joined. But after a year, I was like, everybody's success stories here are like jobs at Apple, Google, and stuff, which is great. I actually think if you're going to do corporate America, those are probably some of the best, obviously, companies to work for. But for me, I just knew, that like feeling in your gut or something. I just knew that I would not only regret it a decade later, but I would be miserable every day during it.
Totally agree, of course. What is asking a little bit of a controversial question, but probably not. I think you'll give me, I imagine, the answer. You've helped, 4,000 authors at this point?
We're getting close to 5,000.
I'll ask the question and walk through what your business does exactly. But like, are authors entrepreneurs?
I think so. Even fiction authors, because like 90% of our authors we work with are nonfiction. I would say, are like without a doubt entrepreneurs, because most of them, they're writing a book that funnels into their business. So they're not doing it really to make money off the book royalties. They do like consulting, public speaking, or a course or something. And the book is just the kind of centerpiece or the beginning of the funnel in a sense. But even fiction authors, they have to be entrepreneurial minded. Their game more is though like just doing multiple books and then trying to make, they call it passive income, but you're consistently working all the time. But passive in a sense. Where, you have the books doing well on Amazon, it's paying you a certain monthly amount and you can live, above your,
what percentage of authors get to a point where they can actually live off of their passive income from their books?
Whoa. I don't even know. It's probably not even a 1%. It's less than 1%. It's super rare.
So for all those others folks who are these entrepreneurs who are writing these books, because they're already an entrepreneur, what is pushing them to do it? It's essentially a marketing funnel, right? It gives them validity. Like I've thought of writing a book and I haven't done that yet. And maybe I will someday. Yeah. Why should someone consider ever writing a book? How should they think through it? How much time does it take? What are the key elements about why and when to decide to write a book? And how do you know what the ROI is going to be? I mean, I think it gives you this, people like, oh, you're the author of this. And people think that's a big deal. But you also you're using Authors United, probably is easy-ish to write a book. Easy.
Yeah, no, definitely. So there's a few questions there. If I forget one, let me know, but I'll try to answer them in a row. So I'll speak to my story briefly first, just because kind of the easiest example. So I wrote my first book, Conference Crushing, when I was like 19, 20 years old. And that one hit #1 Amazon bestseller, which I'm 34 now. So that 14, 15 years ago, that was like a way bigger deal than it is now. A lot of people know now that like Amazon bestseller is not that difficult to hit. It's kind of like a category thing. But at the time, I didn't know that. Like I just woke up one morning and I was checking my rank and it was like bestseller badge across. And I was like, I'm 19, 20. This was like right before, or no, this was a little bit after I dropped out. So I must have been like 20 and a half.
Why did you decide to write that, right? So were you trying to push something? Like, were you trying to push your own marketing thing? Or why did you, and like, how are you at 19, someone who like knows how to do conferences well? Like that's what you do when you're older and you're sort of more established in your career, you're going to conferences all the time.
Yeah. So the reason I wrote it is at that time I had realized that I was like very extroverted, outgoing, and I wanted to do something professional that I could leverage that. So I was thinking I wanted to be a public speaker and just travel. In my mind, I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Like people pay for my flights, nice hotels, and I get paid to speak. Like dream job in my, like at that time of my life. I did that for a little bit, but I actually discovered I got pretty nervous on stages with like hundreds or low thousands, I think was my biggest stage, or maybe not thousands, like 1,000 people. I just got nervous. Whereas like a one-on-one like this to me is just more, I don't know, it's in my comfort zone. So I still have fear. There was fear there and I allowed it to turn. But the reason my trajectory also turned is because that was working. Like I wrote the book, became a bestseller. And the reason I did that, sorry if I'm going a little over the place, just trying to hit every part of the question, is it leads back to the book. So the reason I wrote that book, it's not about how to like put on conferences. What it's about is as like a conference attendee, but as a conference attendee, how to best leverage your time at the events. And I had gone, like, once I dropped out of school, my way of learning was like just reading books or going to all these different conferences. So I had gone to like dozens of them. I've been to probably, I don't know, 150, 200 conferences in my life. I was a conference junkie, I think sometimes they call it. Like I was just going to everything I get my hands on. And what happened is I saw, this was maybe 6 months or so, 3 months after dropping out, reading the 4 Hour Work Week, I get retargeted with Tim Ferriss's face for this event, Mastermind Talks. It's this guy, Jason Gaynard. He puts on the event. At the time, it was in Toronto, Canada. And I reached out to him through the website and I was like, hey, I'm a broke dropout, aspiring entrepreneur, 80 grand in debt from college loans. And, I'd love to help you with putting on the event, but like, I don't have enough money to buy a ticket. Like, can we work something out? No lie, we hop on Skype. It was either same day or the next day, but it was like very fast. And me and him just completely hit it off. And next thing I know, I'm living in Toronto for about 6 months and I'm like shaking Tim Ferriss's hand at the event and stuff. So it happened really fast. And at that event, almost everybody was a best-selling author that were the speakers. So that's where that kind of triggered for me, where I was like, if I want to be a public speaker, then becoming a best-selling author would make it a lot easier. And especially if you're 20 years old.
Because it establishes credibility, essentially, right?
Yeah. And that kind of leads to my story, is because one of your questions was like, why do people do it? And for me, or one of the best times to do it, to me, the answer to that question is 2 times. Like, one, do it the time I did it, like before you're anything, if possible, right? Like before you're anything, it's kind of hard to be an expert on it.
Like, how would someone think that you're someone worth reading? It's a good title. Why would anyone think if they actually knew your background as like 20-year-old?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think to speak honestly, I think that most people just see the kind of one-liner, like number one best-selling author, and I think my book's good because of my editor, not because of my writing skills. But it is pretty good, but more so it just gave me that kind of badge of trust, the number one best-selling author badge. And it wasn't really that people were reading my book or doing much research into me after that. Like, it would be like, oh, you're a number one best-selling author, must be legit, right? It was just like that fast, that the trust was there on a professional level. And so going back to that question, I think for people, if you can write it and do enough research to figure out how to make it something valuable to others, even if you don't have a ton of experience, which I did at the time, have, I would say, good experience with conferences, especially because I was like, I worked for that guy, Jason, for free for that 6 months and saw behind the scenes of the whole event. And then knowing him, I was getting into all these other events for free. So I did learn a lot. I would say I know a good amount, maybe not as much as like you're saying, somebody a little bit older, but do it early to leverage the brand and then do it later just to like actually teach what you've really learned throughout the experience. I think those are the 2 best times.
Okay. So it makes total sense to do that. Once you did that, where did that end up? Like, so you write this book, you're 20 years old. How did you even get someone, like, how did you go about writing a book in the first place, knowing what to do, getting an editor who is good to actually pick it up, and then getting it published? Like, this was early days for those things when it was probably harder than it is today. There wasn't something like Authors Unite out there.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Yeah, this was very early in like the Kindle direct publishing days with Amazon and like CreateSpace. So what happened is I guess it was an ad or something, but Ryan Dice, a digital marketer, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but got pretty big online marketer. He had this course that was like $200. It was called Number One Book System. I don't know if it's still like live or not, but basically what the course taught you was how, in a sense, like how to hit bestseller on specific websites and stuff. So that's why it was called Number. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then one of my friends, his name was Chandler. he had written a book and also had hit Amazon bestseller. So he was kind of like helping me with it, but not really the marketing part, just more so like the writing part, because it was so early that we didn't know that Amazon was like, repeatable at that time. Even though there was a course like saying like, hey, if you do these things, it's still just not believable. You're like, how could this be possible? So that's why when I say when I woke up and I hit bestseller, there was some planning, but I still did not believe.
Like, forget almost getting bestseller. Like, the hardest part is actually just writing something that has any value at all.
So here's what happened. So sorry I veered off. So here's the answer to that question is after that Canada thing happened, I could only stay there for the 6 months. So then I came back and there was a few other guys that had also dropped out of college and they were living in this entrepreneur house in West Des Moines, Iowa. It was this guy, Dane Maxwell, who I'm still friends with today. He ran this company called The Foundation that helped people like create software businesses. And so he had already kind of made it. He was in his early 30s. And then there was like 6 of us other guys that moved into that house. Most of us were in our early 20s. And I think he was just like hooking us up. Our rent was like me and the guy, Chandler, we both moved into that house. And I think both of our rents were like $400 a month. And we became like accountability partners. So to answer the question, that's how I did it. Is I think most people that want to write a book, they're so busy. Everybody's busy. So writing a book's like a part-time job. But in that scenario, and with my parents' financial support at the time, waking up every day, being around 6 other guys that were like kind of on a similar mission as me. And what we did is we used accountability, but with stakes. And what I mean by that is, this is also from the 4-Hour Work Week, is basically we would create goals every week. And if you didn't reach your goal, then you had to do stuff for the other 6 guys in the house, like clean dishes, wash clothes, whatever stuff you don't want to do for 6 other dudes.
So that works if you can make the book. What do you recommend people do nowadays? Or you've helped almost 5,000 authors now. How does an author who already has a business that's successful and growing, but they want to get that next level of credibility, how do they get something out the door?
I would say, and I might be a little biased because we offer this as a service, but to me, like most of our clients are 7 to 9 figure entrepreneurs. They're super busy. So I would say, let somebody like our company or another company that does it ghostwrite the book for you. It's proven like it's not going to take away from the quality. These are professional writers. What happens is they'll interview you weekly on a Zoom call and they'll write the whole book for you. We get a different person to come in and edit the book. Like, I just think that's the easiest path, unless you are already a writer. Then, obviously do that first draft yourself. But if not, I just think I was in a very kind of specific environment that allowed me to push through every day, where everybody was working together, the accountability, all that. Most people, you can have accountability online. It's just not the same as in person. And they're living with their family, they're running the company. Just let somebody ghostwrite it, and they have the money to hire.
Cost on average, like you don't have the stuff listed on your website. What is that? What do the prices look like?
Yeah. Average for like a 150, 200 page business book, it would be around $50K.
Okay. And then that's just for the writing. And then what about for publishing it, making sure it becomes a bestseller or at least something? Although maybe before you answer that question, do you need to, is the whole point of you getting credibility as an entrepreneur to just get the book out the door? Like, does it actually matter if a lot of people read it, or is it more like, hey, I'm a published author and that is all you need?
Great question. Well, they say the book is the new business card, which I don't necessarily love that quote, because I think then what you get is kind of what you're alluding to with the question is a lot of people putting out books that they don't spend a lot of quality time on because they just want the badge. I'm not hating on that in a sense. I mean, I worked hard on my book, but in a sense, that's what I did a little bit. So not hating, but to answer your question, I would say you can do both. I really think both is fair. I just think in a sense, it becomes slightly a sadder world if there are tons of books flooding the market that don't have value in them and they're just being used as business cards. It's a little sad, but it's also, I guess, part of the game a little bit too. So
okay, then how much does it cost to make a book into a bestseller or quote unquote Amazon bestseller or whatever it would take?
Yeah, so in that $50K, it's included as editing. Publishing, we charge $8,500. And then marketing for the bestseller list, it varies like very dramatically. Amazon bestseller, we charge $9,500. And then like USA Today bestseller, it's a custom quote. It just depends on the week and competition, but low six figures. Wall Street Journal, that list doesn't exist right now. It went away November 2023, but we've done about 1,000 of those and we were charging $60K a pop.
Wow.
For
In New York Times, even more probably.
NYT, it's custom, but it could be in the low millions. That one's pretty wild. And that's good. That one's not only based on sales. That's the only one. Like all the other ones we can guarantee. New York Times, you can't guarantee because it's an editorial list.
Right.
So even if you hit all the requirements, you might still have that one person, I guess, on the editorial board or whatever that's like, nah, that's not for us. Even though you got the sales and everything. So that one's risky.
That's risky. That's interesting. Okay. So then once again, are these entrepreneurs? So you've worked with all these entrepreneurs. What is it really for them because they're like, hey, I'm going to drop that $50K to make this investment to help grow my other businesses. What are their thinking? You've talked with 5,000 of them probably, or at least someone on your team has. What are the mental models? So if I'm an entrepreneur listening to this show today, what are the models where someone should say, this is a good marketing channel for me versus the other things I can go spend 50 to 60 grand on?
I would say if you have a solid back end offer that's tested, like a high ticket offer or something like, and actually who I think is the best at this, like Alex Hormozy, you've probably heard him, like he's been blowing it up lately. So, think about his business, which is different than most other businesses in the space because he's not really, I guess he does sell high ticket, but he's more looking to invest in people's companies. But books are the top of his funnel, right? He spends an unbelievable amount of time on the quality of those books, and his results on the back end are amplified because the books are amazing. So it kind of leads back to your other question. It's like, yes, you could put it out real fast and I think you would get benefit, but if you make it super valuable, the benefit's going to be 10x. But either way, I just think if you have a very battle tested offer that the book can funnel into, then I think it's a no-brainer. Like ROI.
Like, is that usually most people who are saying, I'm selling my course on how to go build the next great conference, or I'm selling my supplements or something. Like what are people usually selling? Is the book right for everyone, or is it someone who is selling some personal course type of thing? Like, you have a lot of different types of entrepreneurs, right? You have restaurant owner, you have tech founders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who's a book right for?
I think that I try to answer this the best way because I think it is actually right for everyone in the sense that I don't really see, unless it's like a terrible book, I don't see how it could hurt you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like it could only help. Like say if you're a chef, right, or you own a restaurant, you would think, I mean, outside of a cookbook, just a normal book, how would that really help? Well, maybe it wouldn't like funnel people into your restaurant. I think that wouldn't really work. But if now the chef and the owner are best-selling authors, maybe the owner wouldn't help that much, but the chef, it would amplify his career, I think, or her career. So I do think it can help anyone, but there is kind of specific businesses that I think it helps more. And I would say from our experience, like we work with a lot of marketing agencies, accountants, people in finance. We work with a lot of tech founders as well, people in the health space. And the way that I view it and why I say also it could work for anyone is that, and I got this from Gary Vee, where he says like, basically give away as much value as you can. Don't worry about holding things back because most people don't act on it anyway. And I think that's such an amazing tip because I think most people, when they have like this method or something that works really well, they want to like keep it behind the curtain in a sense. And I guess that can work. But to me, what works better is give it all away for free in a book, or not for free, but very cheap. And every people that read it will be mind blown. Like this person definitely knows how to do what they're talking about. And then most of 99%, if they want it to happen, they'll end up hiring.
Very much have that philosophy on that stuff too. It's people don't want to do things. I get it, which they shouldn't, right? The whole point of you, as you mentioned, like delegate as many things as you can, hand things off. You might have great ideas, but it doesn't mean you should be the one doing them. Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, so I think like there was this one book. It's called "Weightlifting is a Waste of Time." We just did the Wall Street Journal bestseller for them, but they've sold. I just checked recently. I think it was a little over 200,000 copies. So I don't like take full credit for that. We helped with the launch, but after that, John Jaquish is the founder. He's the one who kind of took it from there. But his business is he sells this workout thing called the X3 bar. And I know they're definitely doing millions, maybe in the 8 figures annually. And, for him, that book, and he was already successful before the book, but the book definitely helped amplify. And when I read the book, the first thing and this was my own client, but just being honest, when I saw the title, similar to 4 Hour Work Week, right? A little gimmicky, like weightlifting is a waste of time. And then I start reading it, and his claim was you only have to work out 10 minutes a day, 6 times a week. And he's like huge. So this is what I would say. So I at first, when I agreed to market it, I was like skeptical. I was like, I don't know if this thing's legit, like 10 minutes a day and you can look like that guy. Like that doesn't seem realistic. But I ended up buying it. And I'm not nearly as big as that guy. But just saying, definitely works. And that book, because of the title, it created a bunch of controversy in the industry because weightlifting is a waste of time. Obviously fitness trainers and stuff, they don't really like that. So just another kind of marketing tactic in there is like, if you can get the book in enough people's hands and then there's controversy built in with the title and like what the book's about, that makes it go viral from there. And it just, for him, it worked.
So, okay. So we'll probably come back to publishing and writing stuff, but given like the business stuff, walk me through like the business itself a little bit more, right? So Authors Unite, how many people are there? How did you build this up into a company? This has been the only company, I mean, you founded 2 companies, but essentially your main company that you built is like a pretty big business that obviously gives you, you're in a different country right now and you're able to work remote, do different things. What was your own journey on like college dropout, learning to become a successful entrepreneur on your own, and why Authors Unite in the first place? Like, okay, cool. Like you figured this out, but like, why do it?
So really what happened is, after I launched my first book, and it hit bestseller, I got like hundreds of messages after I posted about it on Facebook. This is, again, we're talking 14, 15 years ago. So your posts on Facebook actually organically were seen by people. Now, I don't know if that really happens much anymore, but regardless, literally hundreds of Facebook messages. Some people I knew, from when I was younger, or it was like my friends' parents, just people in the community I grew up in, and others were random. But the message was just like, how did you do this? Like, how are you 20 years old and a #1 best-selling author? How'd you write it? How'd you publish it? How'd you market it? And so right away, when I got that type of feedback, it clicked pretty immediately that this was something that I could turn into a business. When I wrote the book, like I said, I was planning on becoming a public speaker. So I didn't write the book to help others with books. I really did not see that coming. But again, when I got the messages, it clicked right away. And then my first business model, and this is where things pivot all the time. My first business model was a coaching business. So I was charging I think it was like $3,000 a month, and I would help people through a 3-month process. First month, we would go through writing the book, which it takes longer than a month, but this is how it was kind of set up to be in the beginning. So it was like write, publish, market, $9,000, $3,000 a month. But then I realized very quickly that coaching one-on-one, there's a ceiling to that. I got to like low. At that point, I was living in San Diego. I lived there for like 7-8 years, and now I'm in Miami. But either way, that's where I was. A pretty expensive area. And I was making like low 6 figures, but I was working all of the time because my thing at that point, which I think is a good idea, especially in the earlier days of a business, because testimonials are gold, is I was not only coaching them during the time that they paid for, but I was giving them my personal cell number. And I was like, text me, call me anytime, I'll be there for you. And 20% of the 100, they will take you up on that offer and call you every day, basically. And so either way, I was doing that and I was happy, early 20s, making multiple 6 figures, not complaining, but I was like dying in the sense of just working all the time, didn't really have a life. So then what happened is I switched it over to courses and done for you only and stopped coaching altogether. And that was kind of the big, I guess, first big unlock. Like that's how we got to the low 7 figures.
You still have to write a course. So you had to write a course of all these things. Like that was a lot of time, I'm sure, to like write up a course of like what you got to do it. Do you find that a lot of people, I mean, I know a lot of people are putting courses together still and doing, is that actually useful in many cases? Like I feel like a lot of people make money on courses, but I feel sometimes they're a little bit scammy.
I will say this, that and I didn't mean, I may have said it actually a little incorrectly. 95% of the money that we make today and made then is from the high ticket done for you offers. The course actually never became, or courses never became hugely successful. But I do think that it's just nice for me, in my mind, it's just a nice to have. If somebody can't afford your done for you, but they like who you are and like what your company's about, maybe they'll buy the course. But to me, it was never a huge moneymaker. But people like Sam Ovens, consulting.com, like, I mean, I don't know their numbers exactly, but I think they've done very well. And that's a course. So you can succeed with it, but as time progresses, I think just with all the content available, I think courses, I don't know if they'll die, but you know what I mean? It's just like you can find anything on YouTube pretty much.
I interviewed someone, he has a whole course for how to run, it's like a poop scooping business, dog poop scooping business. Small, some niche thing, and yet they are crushing it in the course of like successful and all these other things. And it's crazy, these small little businesses that can be really successful as an entrepreneur.
That's so cool. Dude, you got to send me that link after that. I got to see this. I have a dog, so maybe it'll help.
Hey, keep your power clean. That's the idea. I mean, it inspired me. Like, I went and bought a domain for poop scooping businesses in like the Bay Area, and some idea someday go start that real business.
No. And just to be clear, I'm laughing, not making fun of, but it's just so cool to me in a sense that literally anything can be a business. Yeah. And I think like when you're an entrepreneur, that actually becomes the problem, is once you see the opportunity and everything, like all the problems you can solve, then it's like, okay, how do you choose which one? So either way, that's a whole another rabbit.
How do you choose what to focus on, right? So you built this business, it started becoming successful. We didn't really talk about what happened in all the growth, but like over your 20-ish years of growing it and building it, it's become a very successful business, obviously. How do you stay focused? How do you decide where to spend your time right now?
Well, now, honestly, besides Partner Profits, every other thing I've attempted, I feel like not on purpose, but has been half-assed, because Authors Unite is just my main thing. And I just know that it's going to keep growing and growing, and it just works. So I don't know. I think for me, that's how it is now. And before, it was that moment in my life where my back was against the wall. The college loan payments were starting to come through. So I would say, like, I think that this became my passion because of the results that my clients were getting. But in all honesty, I chose to start the business literally out of financial need. Like my back was against the wall. I was getting all these messages on how I did it, and the click happened, like this could be a business. And that's really how I made that decision, is I was like, I don't have any other ideas that are better than this. Like, I think I can make it work. So I just...
And then you started hiring a team to go help you do it, or it was all you in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was all me. And even until I would say maybe 1 to 2 mil a year, it was all me too. I was doing like 100 calls a week and then doing fulfillment on the weekends. It was wild. But now I got about like a 20-person team. Now we do 8 figures. We'll see if we can get to the next level. I don't know. But yeah, I've been doing this about 14 years.
Yes, it takes a long time to build a real business.
Yeah.
And some people don't realize that. When going back to one of your key points, like, it's just, you got to stick with it for a long time. In many cases, like, most businesses are not overnight successes. And frankly, the ones that look like an overnight success actually take a bunch of time to get there. It just seems like they're an overnight success because you hear about them randomly. So okay, going back to the question, how do you decide what to focus on? Like, how do you choose?
Oh yeah. Okay. So sorry, I thought that was meant in the sense of like different businesses. So as far as like tasks and stuff, I finally, even with having a full team, I was still doing some of like, I guess, managerial roles. But now I have my assistant, Lisa. I hired her about 1.5 years ago. Why it took me so long, I have no idea, honestly. Like, it feels crazy to say that it took me that.
This is what we hear from so many people, like, why didn't I get extra help? Either an executive assistant, I'm biased, like something like chore, like to do all of your back office. Why did I not hand these things off? People always are shocked when they realize how valuable it is. And yet they're too cheap and frugal to do it at first, and they forget the value of their time.
Oh, 100%. I think for me, that was definitely part of it. And the other part of it is, as kind of like ignorant as this is going to sound, I truly believed that I was the only one that could do some of these tasks. It's just hilarious now to say. But Now my time mostly is focused on like finding the best referral relationships for the business we can, and actually a lot on investments, which is outside of Authors Unite. But like Lisa, she literally, I without knowing it or trying, I kind of got to the 4-hour work week. Like that's what I think is funny about where I'm at now is I read that book when I didn't have anything. And I didn't care about the 4-hour work week. I just wanted to have a successful business. And then after I hired Lisa a year and a half ago, and I literally documented everything I was doing every week. And literally the only thing that I couldn't outsource to her was like, I probably could is doing phone calls for me, but I like that part. Like I like doing calls. I like doing podcasts. So I didn't actually want to give that part up, but everything else like email, texts, like down to literally everything she does. The only thing I do is calls and podcasts.
Yeah, but I mean, that is the successful way of doing it. Do you have a heuristic though of how do you then decide, like, how does she decide what comes up to your attention? Is there anything else? Like, obviously, all you do say is calls and other things, but probably not totally, right? Who is deciding what podcasts you go on, or who's deciding if there's some weird financial issue with the company, who deals with that? Like, there's that'd be a ton of small things you're not fully thinking about.
Yeah, my dad, because although he worked for J&J for like the 35 years, he also does accounting for small business. So he's been managing my stuff since I started, and up until this day, he manages like everything in my life financially. So I'm very lucky to have my dad in that role, because you hear a lot of horror stories like
So
that.
he's almost like your COO in a weird way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would say not down to the point of like, cause he's not very technical, but like, like he's not like setting up Stripe or stuff like that.
Are you interviewing all the new people on the team? You have 20 people on the team. Do you interview all of them? What do you do there?
Most of them are actually their salespeople. So basically the way that it functions is for all of like the services, I guess I'll start there. So all the services, most of them are actually freelancers. So they're not like full-time employees. And then, so they're either a freelancer that I would say mostly works for us, just because, we keep them busy with enough jobs, or they might even be a separate entity that we're white labeling in a few cases. Because we offer about 20 or so different services in the 4 phases. And then Lisa fully manages my life, my dad's COO. And then the way we work it with our salespeople is they're commission only. They work for like the first 3 to 6 months they work. And then if things go well, I'll hire a full-time assistant for them. Not at like Lisa's level, because Lisa's like a 6-figure EA. But at a good level, but a little bit of a lower level, but essentially to handle all of their booking and just managing their calendar and stuff for them, so that once they prove they can sell and build partnerships and stuff, then I'm like, I don't want them doing anything except that, right? I don't want them.
And this is so many founders don't think through this. It's like this, by the way, the same rule applies to every founder, not just salespeople. It's like you want the people everyone has a skill, and hopefully you're great at your skill, whatever it is. To be clear, a lot of people are not, but let's pretend you are great at your skill. You should find a way to spend all your time doing that skill, or doing things that help you at a high level get better at that skill. Like that might mean sleeping more, working out, spending time with family, whatever it is that recharges your batteries so you can spend more time on that thing you're great at, that you enjoy the most. And once you can get all the extra help, whether you're investing it on your own or your company's paying for it, whatever it is, just when every founder delegate, say no to all the other junk and hand it off.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more, man. And actually, that is, I didn't view that as like work time. And I guess technically it's not, but actually a lot of my time is spent on just kind of like enhancing my brain or the way I feel, so that on the calls and podcasts, I can perform at the highest level. So like I go for long walks a lot. Like, I don't work out a lot. Pilates with my girlfriend, she got me into that. Not hating on it. I think it's great, but.
So you have these people who are building partnerships. I know you've talked about partnerships in networking. Walk me through, like, what are the key heuristics for great partnerships? How do you establish them? What does that look like? What does that mean?
Okay. Yeah, dude, this is awesome. So that's kind of that was the unlock to 8 figures right there. Well, and hiring people, obviously. I don't know if you can get, maybe with AI now, I guess they say you can, but my path was hiring people and then realizing the partnership thing. Cause for me, what ended up, and this leads back to your first question with like the entrepreneur excellence and failure and stuff. I tried like Facebook ads, sales funnels, SEO, Google ads. None of it worked for me. So I finally, when I was talking about the 100 calls a week, what my salespeople do as well is we are going after people that work with authors or people that should be authors. We have about 300 different keywords that we target, and we reach out to all of them. So I'll give you like a prime example. And that's where my time is spent now, is like, it'll work its way up the chain. If the potential of that partnership is like enormous, then I'm like, hey, let me take the call. I'll still give you commission, but like, let me take a swing at this one just because this could be enormous. Like, say if it was like a Harper Collins or something, like that partnership with us could be just insane. So I'm like, let me take that one. But essentially, what it is with partnerships, and how this is 99% of our, how we get business, is we have reached out to literally every book publisher that speaks English, that we like, thousands of them. And then the sales team or me, they have the call with them, establish, hey, if you refer to us, we'll give you a commission. We'll refer to you as well, and just build that at scale. Now we have tens of thousands of partnerships, probably close to 100,000. Like, we have tons of them. Now I will say there's that 80-20 rule, or as it grows, it's like 99-5 rule, meaning that most of them end up not referring anybody, but then there's the 5% that, they'll refer 5 to 10 a year. And then like the 0.5% that are the bulk of your business.
How do you nurture those? So, like, that makes total sense. I mean, like, I've done lots of partnerships in my career. How do you make sure you nurture your top folks, or turn those people who are in the top 10% into top 1% or 0.1%?
It's funny. So my, the guy who helps me, a good friend of mine too, he's here next to me. I'm only bringing him up because we were just having this conversation recently, but he helps me with tech stuff, website stuff. And we were having this conversation, I think it was yesterday. And that's actually somewhere I'm about to start spending a lot more time in, because we have in our pipeline, we use Go High Level. I'd say we have about 1,000 partners that I would qualify that are in that range of like the top ones. And me and him were saying, like, thinking of ideas of like, what if you offered them, like free support for any questions they have, like have them join Slack or something. Do you think that would get them to refer more? Or what if we set up this like gifting thing? There's websites out there where they'll like send gifts and stuff to your partners, stuff like that. And so we're going to start implementing that. And I think that's actually where my time and some of my top salespeople could be spent very well. And it could turn somebody who's referring 5 a year into maybe 10 or 20 people a year, right? Just like giving them that extra love, or what, or what.
Even for the folks who refer a decent amount to you today, what are there qualities that stand out? Like, you must be telling your sales team and partnership folks, look for people who look like X. What is a good partner look like? And maybe for specific your industry, but just probably generic as well. Like, what is someone going to look like who's great?
Okay, so I would say for us, I'll speak on a few. So book publishers that are in low 7 figures or higher, they're like perfect for us. Ghostwriters actually that charge in that 50K range, that are like freelance ghostwriters or ghostwriting agencies, they're incredible. Reason being is like, somebody who is willing to spend that amount of money on ghostwriting a book, and then that ghostwriter only offers that service. We offer everything else in the pipeline.
So you basically, they can come in, they can say, hey, look, we're going to refer, this guy already wants to work with me as a ghostwriter. I'm going to refer them to you guys to do all the marketing and everything else.
Yep. And then that ghostwriter, they make money obviously on what they sold, but then they'll get commission on everything else that we sell them. So like, I guess in summary, what that really is like, find people that offer complementary services, even if there's some overlap, right? Because we offer ghostwriting, the ghostwriter offers it. So you could view us as competitors, but the ghostwriter does not do publishing, marketing, or media or anything.
But even still, sorry to keep pushing there a little bit.
Right.
You have all these ghostwriters, but very few are referring folks to you probably still. So probably like you said, 90, 10, 99, 1. Right? Who actually refers. What makes the ones who really refer things well? Like, why are they better than others? Like, what are they more incentivized on the money? Are they just more thoughtful on like what qualities about them make them a great referral partner? Even if they're identical in their business to someone else, for some reason they are better at referring. I would bet.
Well, I will say, like, we offer a 20% commission, and our stuff is, our average client's like 50K to 150K. So 20% can be, like a lot of our referral partners, or not a lot, but that in that smaller group, I think some of them make more off of the commissions we give them than their own business, which obviously that will incentivize. But I get your question, and I actually haven't really thought about that way, and so I'm trying to answer it. But the reason I guess I haven't is because we've been more looking at it, and we should. It's an amazing question, because we've been more looking at it from like, a keyword. Where are they at in business? And it's like, if they offer services that are complementary, that are of a similar price range, that typically works very well. And like I don't know if this is answering it, but I'm trying to get there, is like political consultant was a recent keyword of like 2 years ago that we discovered. And there was a pretty good unlock there. And what it was is these politicians that hire their political consultants, it's money, that was funded to them, like campaign money. That money has to be used, right? They can't keep it, and they can use it for a book for themselves to help their campaign. So the other kind of thing was like, what if we could find people that it's kind of like there is no money objection because it's not their own money. So that's been something with, we've been reaching out to tons of political consultants. That works very well. And I would imagine we've had a few instances like this, but we haven't targeted it. But corporate money, that works really well, reaching out to CMOs and stuff and bigger corporations. But I don't know. I'm trying to answer your question. It's just because I know you're asking about kind of different characteristics, right? Like about them. And I don't know exactly how to answer that. Just, I think because we've been so focused on volume. Like we do like 10,000 plus reach outs a day and just try to like book as many calls as possible. So I haven't thought about it. That's what you're meaning though, right? Like the characteristics.
So what are the characteristics of a great partner? Like why, once again, there's a million that there's 10,000, probably way more than that. It sounds like we're reaching out 10,000 a day, but like millions of people who look the same, who could be a great partner, yet only 1% of them actually become someone who is referral, like high quality referral partner.
Yeah, I think the financial reward obviously is huge, and I'm just kind of cycling through our time.
I guess a lot of those partners don't care. My guess is I think a lot of people, what I've learned, are not driven by money, which is to their credit a great thing, and they just don't think about it. Yeah. Like it's easy money if they made the referral, but they just don't consider it.
Yeah, and I think too, what it is that like when I was cycling through those top ones, I may have already kind of said this, but it's like a lot of the book publishers, ghostwriters and stuff, they get asked the question about the other services on a very consistent basis, and they don't offer it. So indeed, it actually was a pain point for them as well. Like not just the client, but the ghostwriter or book publisher, because they kept getting asked this question and they couldn't offer them a service that would fulfill it. Right. And now what's actually happening is they are in some cases mentioning that they're not mentioning our business because they don't want to like lose that sale. Although I wouldn't like take it by any means, but I'm just pointing out that what they'll do is like leverage what we can do and say, look, you don't have to worry about that. We'll help you with that when we get there. So let's start here. And that actually helps them increase their closing rate on their initial business offerings. So I think that seems to be the kind of thing that is similar about a lot of them, is their clients have always wanted what we offer, but they didn't know about us until now, and it's solving their own issue.
Do you think, jumping subjects really quick, I want to be a little bit of time. So jumping quickly around things for a second, you obviously wrote about going back to conference stuff, digital age we live in now. Do conferences still have value? And if yes, who should be going to them and why?
I think they do. Because for me, with the partnerships, like, to me, everything's been about relationships. Like literally every success or any good thing in my life that I can think of, it all stems back to somebody I met, or, a large group of people that I've connected with. So conferences, I think actually they might be even more important today, not for the content they teach, but for the people that you can connect with. And that's actually kind of what that book is about. It's that my experience at being at so many, I would hear people be unhappy about them from time to time. And I was never unhappy, but I was never there to learn from the speakers. I was always there to like meet the speakers and meet all the attendees. And by meeting all of them, I would always come away with way more than the time I spent there, or if I paid, which I will be honest in saying most I didn't pay.
If your hobby was worthwhile, I have real trouble. I used to go to a lot of conferences too, but I have real trouble going to them nowadays, mostly because it's always a question for me about where I spend my time. in the efficiency and ability of what I can do digitally is like, can I reach more people by having great conversations with really fascinating folks on my podcasts and then having this spread to lots of people versus going to a conference and just like hoping I can shake the hand of like Tim Ferriss, which would be cool, but he doesn't give a shit about me and he's not going to like do anything else. And like, what does that really lead me to? And that's where I wonder the ROI on some of these things.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that. So I will say I haven't been. What was the last event I went to? Tiger 21 was the last one I went. So I haven't. I do not go to that many conferences now. Probably one a year, two a year, maybe. And the reason actually is I didn't realize. I just answered the question differently. But basically, what you're saying is a realization I had, and I think what you're saying is completely accurate in the sense that I can do all these reach outs online, podcasts or partnership calls, and I can one-on-one connect with, dozens or maybe about 100 a week if I go back to my older ways earlier in the business. So you could do 100 a week, one-on-one. And that's a ton, like that compounds over time like crazy. Or you could fly to an event, right? And then a hotel, and there's day before, day after the event. It's a lot of time. And with all of the speakers and stuff, how much breakout time do you actually get? Maybe, for 5 days, you only connect with 10 people. And that would probably be even a lot, right? So I agree with you. It's digitally, you end up.
And also, if you're there, my other big issue with conferences is if you were there to learn things and not for the networking. The fact is, like, I can go find anything I want to learn on YouTube, and I can watch it at 2x speed when I want to. And I will probably learn more and gain more from it. And so I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about conferences nowadays. I probably should go to more.
No, I agree with you, man. I'm on the same page. And especially if it's about learning something, I don't know. I don't get it for that.
Speaking of learning, you wrote a three-part series, I believe, The Better Business Books. You interviewed 100 different founders and entrepreneurs. What things did you learn? Were there any key takeaways? To summarize it all, right? There's 3 books about this, but give us a summary.
So, just for clarity, I'm not trying to correct you, just so people know. So we did 4 of them, and what the model was it was based off like Chicken Soup for the Soul. Yeah. So that's how I like got the idea. And what it actually was, some of these people I have had on my podcast, but I actually didn't interview these people. That was actually kind of like a part of our business model at Authors Unite. Is that was a very low ticket offer where people could pay to be in the book. 100 people, and then we would make each book a bestseller, and then about 20% of each book would then decide to do their own book.
That was marketing for you. That's so smart.
Yeah, that's what that was. But I will say each person did write their own chapter about a business lesson they learned. So, oh my God, the only issue is these were like 8 years ago. I don't know the consensus. I'm sorry.
I just think it's a fascinating go-to-market plan and method. Okay, so those are all the key things you've done there. Talking about book publishing again for a second, $50K, let's say, to have you all help ghostwrite a book and do that is expensive. How has AI changed the nature of book writing and publishing and everything else? Like, I could probably go prompt ChatGPT a few times and have it create a quote unquote book for me that I can go self-publish and now say I'm a published author.
100%. So that is the biggest, like if I look at Authors Unite as a business, like the book marketing side, I don't think is going to be very much impacted. Who knows? Like maybe it will be, but I don't really see it. Whereas the creation side, editing, ghostwriting, all that is going to be impacted, if not already impacted. So I think that's definitely an objection now that we get. We do have some of our editors and ghostwriters that I know use AI to like help them just. And here's the thing. I think that a lot of the freelance editors and ghostwriters, there's like this love-hate relationship with it. They hate it because they know that in a few years, it might take their entire job. Right. Which I just think, and maybe that's inevitable. Maybe it certainly will in 5 years or something, maybe faster. So I know from talking to a lot of them that some refuse to use it, which I think is silly, but it's just, they hate it, right? They're just like, it'll never be as good as a human and it's going to take our job. So they just will not jump on board. But the reality is there's 800, I think I heard 800 million people on ChatGPT. So it's like, by you not hopping on board is not going to change.
I've heard this story a bunch of times in almost every profession. You're literally hurting yourself by not doing that. You're guaranteeing that you are obsolete if you are not using these tools today. It shouldn't be the only way you do something, but why wouldn't you want a brilliant co-pilot helping you get some answers? Like, that's stupid. So has it impacted things yet or not? You haven't seen it on the writing side yet too much.
No, I've definitely seen it impact things a bit. Just in the sense that like I just think selling ghostwriting as a package a few years ago was a lot easier. And that's a newer objection now, having to handle that. So no, it's definitely already impacted it. I don't know by like exact numbers. I'd have to talk to my dad about that, but I'm sure it's gone down on that side a little bit. And I just think the projection is that in a few years, that whole part of the business could go away. Like, that's totally possible. But I agree with what you said. And that's what I actually tell the writers and editors that we work with, the same thing, where I'm like, look, the writers and editors that are using it, they're able to get back to the clients in weeks when they're like ghostwriting or editing, where it takes somebody who's not using it months. So, it's just like, and it's like, even if it's going to take over your whole career, it's like, well, use it now to make more money. And that while you're planning for your next move, you know what I mean? It's just, that's reality. That's what it is now.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you've spoken a lot about freedom, right? Location freedom, time freedom, creative freedom. You've gotten yourself into the real world of like a 4-hour work week mindset. Has that definition evolved as your business has grown? And then also, what has that meant for you to have that freedom? And like, is that entrepreneurial excellence in a sense in your mind?
I think so, but I will say in the sense that like when you do have that much freedom, that's when things really, like, I don't know how else to word it, in the sense of like, it is, you think it's everything you want, and it is, but then also once you have it, you have to figure out what else to do with your life, which can be difficult. It depends on who you are.
What have you figured out, right? You're a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah, well, I got a girlfriend, I have a dog, hopefully kids soon, and do Pilates, work. I just try to fill my time, because like, and I love to travel. We travel a lot. So we do a lot, but I just think that and I'm just kind of reliving in my head that when it kind of first happened, even before hiring Lisa, because before her, I still like, I was doing more, but maybe then it was like 15-hour, 20-hour, tons of time on my hands. And it just, it's not depression. That's not the right word, but just kind of like, I didn't know what to do with all the time. And I just found myself watching Netflix or just doing nothing for a long time. And I was like, this can't be like what it is, right? Like, this isn't why I did all this, So I just think it's something that when you're so focused and you're working a lot on the business, and, it's, like, and you don't have the money yet, in a sense, or even if you do, but you still are, like, the business is still taking up all your time. Once you kind of just like plop out on that other side and you have all that time freedom, it is a very weird feeling. Like, it's not what I expected, I guess is what I'm saying. But if you can figure out what to do with it and, stay happy and everything, then I think it's amazing. Like, what's better than that, in a sense, besides having kids, maybe? Like, that's amazing.
Kids are a ton of work as well. So, and you,
Yeah, that would give me my full-time job back.
side. What's a hard truth you've had to tell an author where it's like, yeah, this is like not good, or what's a hard truth or something that you had to explain to people?
Normally it's my editors, where they have to be honest and say your book's not very good. But for me, I would say I'm more helping them with like the strategy on the back end stuff, and just making sure it'll actually turn into an ROI. You can't guarantee that, but that it has a good chance. So just being honest of saying like, hey, like, this offer, it's not tested. Like, I don't think it's going to work. And they're like ready to go all in. And I'm like, well, I think you should like test this first. And they thought they were ready. And then I tell them that, and they realize that they have a ton more work to do, because testing an offer is pretty difficult. Right. It's not easy. And once you find that one winner, then you can scale the heck out of it, but it's very hard to find that one winner. Most people never find it.
Most people never do. Are there things, once again, given you've worked with so many of these entrepreneurs, are there any key characteristics, just to kind of go through it again, like you think so many of them share, right? What is it about them that most are willing to invest a lot of money in a book, let alone their businesses and everything else to make this happen?
I think I've been told I'm in the ego business is what I've been told by some people. So, and I would say if I were to a solid 50%, that people they do it just to like have that badge of honor, going back towards. So I will say that's 50%. And then maybe the other 25% is they've already made it and now it's more of a legacy thing. So they are now just like, I don't care if this makes me any money. There's no back end offer. It's more like a memoir, or like lessons book, self-help, and they'll launch it. And they just want it to be seen or bought by as many people as possible, not to make money, but to just feel like they've left a legacy or impact in the world. So that's another 25. And then the last 25, I would actually just say is a combination of both. Yeah. Like it's just a mix of those.
The legacy, by the way, is funny. So my grandfather, so this is well before this was a thing. He found an author to ghostwrite, help him essentially ghostwrite a book about his life. Wasn't something he expected anyone to read. Didn't care about it, like getting on Amazon. It was a great book. I mean, I learned how my grandfather lost his virginity. That was unexpected. But it's actually a really good book about like this whole like life history that, it has an ISBN number, everything. And it's a real book, and really high quality. And it is a legacy. It's great to have that for the family, to know what he went through and how he went through his life and how he built. He was actually a pretty successful entrepreneur in his own way. And like some ways hurt himself in other ways too. Like it was ups and downs, of course, but it was a really good story to hear and to see and read and everything else.
Yeah.
He did it
To me,
before this.
those are the funnest. I was just gonna say those are the funnest projects to me. I actually had considered just as a hobby creating a podcast called 70 and Up, where I only interview people that are older than 70 or older. Because to me, when you're working with somebody at that age and they're telling their story, like a memoir type book, dude, they're just the best to hang. I think they're the best to hang out with ever, dude. They're so cool. We're doing this one book for this guy who's in his late 80s. It's going to literally be 1,000 pages, and it's a memoir. He was in the Vietnam War and stuff. It's coming out early next year, and literally 1,000 pages. It's like 300,000 words. It's crazy. So,
You know what? Good for him. Like, what a great way to invest. If you have extra cash and it's just, this is me, that's a great way to invest and get that story out there.
oh, totally, dude. And I mean crazy in like the best way possible. But one thing I did tell him is I was like, I don't really know if like how the spine, like I don't know if there's a spine of a book big enough for that many pages. So we might have to turn it into volumes. I'm not sure yet. We've never done a book that big before. So either way, we'll find out. But just working with him, and my ghostwriters said the same thing, just like it's just so fun. And I think maybe part of it too is because there's no pressure, in the sense that like and I think he's even said this to us. He's like, yes, I want to make an impact and I want as many people to buy it, but even if it only helped one person, I would be happy.
Mm.
So when you're working with somebody like that, where it's not about ROI and like meeting a deadline, that's, you know what I mean? It just makes the work so much easier.
Yeah.
Like better. It's fun.
No, so I love that. So a little bit of a kind of lightning round, a few questions. What's a book every founder should write?
I think you should write a memoir. I think every founder should write, not just for legacy, but I think if you write a memoir about your life, whether it's in, and I had this misconception when I was younger that you can only write a memoir like when you're older at the end of the time, in a sense. You can write it at different parts of your life, earlier, middle, whatever. Maybe, publish the big one at the end, right? Because that's the full memoir. But point being is, I think that not only will you get the benefit of having, a book out, but you'll learn so much about yourself and what you're doing and how to improve just by writing it down. And I think most people, they don't write down what their typical day, week, year, like most people don't journal anymore, I don't think. So I just think the benefits of that, and just realize so much more will populate your brain as you're writing it all out, mind mapping it. It'll be invaluable regardless if you publish it or not.
So that makes a ton of sense. I totally agree. What would you say to most people who would probably say like, my life is not interesting?
Yeah, I've felt that before. Which might be surprising, but truly, I felt that before. I think that I think everybody can relate to something. And I would say, actually, if you do feel that way, maybe if you're okay with it, stay on course. If you're not, then make it interesting. You know what I mean? And I know that's not how you meant the question, but I guess, if you really can't think of anything to write about, then maybe, you got to start doing more stuff. But I would imagine that if you're running a business and you're an entrepreneur, because I think that was the question, what book should every entrepreneur write? You're probably doing something more significant than you think, because just being an entrepreneur in itself is already very rare.
Yeah, no, well said. So I will ask then, what book do you think everyone should read?
I'll give two, just because the one we already said, 4-Hour Workweek and Think and Grow Rich. Those were the first two by Napoleon Hill.
Okay. What's one business or life principle you try to live by?
I think I'm trying to think of the exact quote. It's some like monk quote or something, but basically like think it and it'll become it. I'm butchering the heck out of it, but I just think like that one rule, in the sense of like everything we think becomes words, and then that becomes our action. So it all kind of starts here. And I think that a lot of people wonder why maybe they're unhappy or depressed or whatever. They're not getting to the root cause. They're just going through the motions. Whereas if you can start here with, maybe it's meditating, reading, journaling, exercising, those things can change everything after in the after effects, right? But most people, they go to the antidepressant or whatever. I'm not saying that's, whatever. I just think there's better ways, maybe.
Totally.
That most people.
We haven't talked about it much, but you're a great marketer. Is there an underrated marketing channel right now that you think everyone should pay attention to grow their business?
Yeah, I hate to be on repeat, but the thing I love about partnerships, and I'm like a partnership maniac, I know, but is like, to me, it's the only one that will stand the test of time, because Facebook, at all those things, they're moving objects, and it's like, because they're always going to change, or they might disappear. So I think TikTok's maybe the best one now for virality, but to me, it's like every referral partner you make and you keep that relationship, it's something that will pay dividends for the rest of the time you're in business. Whereas once you stop paying Mark Zuckerberg, no more people see it, So that's the one that's worked for me, really the only one in a sense. And I think it is the best one.
I think it'll probably agree with it from a number of great founders. It's partnerships. It's hard to unlock that channel and make it really good. And I think people do need to recognize that it takes time to build a partnership channel. It's not an immediate unlock. So like if you're trying to get results tomorrow, partnerships is not the right way to go. But as a long-term enduring business perspective, it's a really smart channel. If you weren't running Authors Unite, what would you be doing?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I would still be an entrepreneur. I don't know exactly what I would be doing. But I would, let's just say if that didn't work out, then I'd be like, ideally, I guess hopefully I'd be in a similar financial situation. But if not, I think if big business, or I guess mine's a medium business technically, if that didn't work out, then I probably would have found something that I would say that I naturally like loved or had passion with, that maybe wasn't making as much money, that was not corporate, but more like a freelance type thing. So maybe in like San Diego, I don't know, teaching, like doing workout lessons on the beach.
Is there a single piece of advice you would give to become an excellent entrepreneur? What would that single piece of advice you'd give folks?
If you know that it's like, cause like I said before, it was either that or being homeless or living with my parents. Like if it's like that for you, then the best advice I can give you is just never, and I hate to say that again, but never quit, because if that is the only option for you, where you're going to be happy and like okay with your life in a sense, then I think that you will eventually succeed. It's like inevitable. It becomes a numbers game. And I just think most people don't realize that. Like they try once, and what's that quote? It's like most people quit right before they're about to succeed. I do think there's a lot of truth in that. So I would just say, if you're unsure, then I guess you have options. But if you're sure that that's the path for you, and your only other path is broke and homeless, then dude, just don't ever quit. And I guarantee you'll get somewhere, like you'll make enough to, to pay rent. I would say, like, at
least. So that's where it starts. And you just grow and build it from there and compound it over time, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Tyler, how can folks get in touch, learn more? Where can they find you?
Best way is just the Authors Unite website. It's just authorsunite.com. And if you have any questions from this podcast for me, you could just reach out to me via email. It's just tyler@authorsunite.com. I'm happy to help or answer any questions.
Amazing. Your time is precious. Thank you for spending some time with me. I'm flattered that out of the, your 4-hour work week, this is something that was worth carving time out for and teaching us about this sort of channel that a lot of people probably don't think about, and in the value of writing a book, getting it out into the world, making that something for you as an individual or for your business. So thank you.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.